All right, let's talk about how to make a point so clear, so well supported that it's practically undeniable. Today, we're diving into a couple of powerful tools that are all about building a rock-solid argument with evidence. And trust me, these aren't just for school papers. These are frameworks for thinking clearly in pretty much any situation. So let's get right into it.
You've been there, right? That incredibly frustrating moment where you just know you're right, but you can't quite find the words to convince the other person. The idea is crystal clear in your head, but when you try to explain it, it just falls flat. Well, what if I told you there are actual formulas for this stuff? A kind of secret recipe for building an argument that's impossible to poke holes in. These aren't just little tricks, they're powerful ways to structure your thinking. And today, we're going to learn them. So our first secret weapon is a super simple but really effective acronym called RACE. I want you to think of this as the basic blueprint for constructing a solid, logical, and evidence-backed point about, well, just about anything. Okay, so it all kicks off with R for restate. Before you even try to give your answer, you take the question you were asked and you flip it into a statement. This does two things. It focuses your thoughts, and it shows you understood exactly what was being asked in the first place. Then you move straight into A for answer. This is your big claim. You state it clearly, you state it directly. No beating around the bush. This is the absolute core of your argument, the one thing you need the other person to walk away believing. But here's the thing. An answer without proof is really just an opinion, right? And that brings us to the most important step, C, for cite evidence. This is where you bring out the big guns, the facts, the stats, the direct quotes, the specific examples that prove what you're saying is true. And finally, you bring it all home with E for explain. Look, it's not enough to just drop a fact and walk away. You have to connect the dots. You have to spell out how that piece of evidence proves your main point. This is where you leave zero room for doubt. So there you have it. You restate, you answer, you cite, and you explain. It's a full four-step loop that guides you from a question to a powerful, evidence-based conclusion. It might seem simple, but it is absolutely foolproof. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This sounds like something my English teacher made me do for an essay. And yeah, it's great for that, but its real power is so much bigger. So where do you actually use this kind of thinking? Honestly, everywhere. When a scientist forms a hypothesis and then uses data to back it up, that's race. When you're debating a historical event using sources, that's race. Even when you're just arguing with your friends about getting pizza and you give clear reasons why pineapple does belong on it, you're using this exact same pattern of thinking. And remember, when we say cite evidence, it's not just about pulling a quote from a book. Sure, that's textual evidence, but you can also use real-world evidence, like facts and statistics, or even personal evidence, a relevant story from your own life that perfectly illustrates your point. The more types of evidence you can pull from, the stronger your argument becomes. Okay, so race gives us an amazing structure, but what if you want to add some real depth, some actual insight to your point? That's where our next tool comes in. It's called the Say, Mean, Matter framework, and it's how you go from just being right to being truly insightful. The first level is say. This is just the surface. What are the literal basic facts? What does the text or the data explicitly state is happening? You have to get this part right before you can go any deeper. It's the foundation. So, once you know what it says, you can ask what it means. This is where the interpretation starts. What's the hidden message here? What's being suggested between the lines? This is the subtext, the what this is really about part of your analysis. And finally, the most powerful layer is matter. This is where you answer the biggest question of all. So what? Why is any of this important? You establish the real significance by connecting your point to a bigger idea, a broader context, or a universal theme. Now look, these two frameworks are great on their own. But the real magic, the thing that takes an argument from good to truly unforgettable, happens when you put them together. Here's the secret sauce. You use the say/mean matter thinking to supercharge the answer and explain parts of your race response. So instead of a simple answer, your answer now explores what the evidence says, what it really means, and why it matters. This is how you build in layers of insight that make your argument completely compelling. All this theory is great, but let's see how it actually works in the real world. We're going to walk through a quick example right now just to see how all these pieces click together perfectly. Okay, here's a short passage about a character named Maria. It says, Maria stared at her acceptance letter, her heart pounding. She carefully folded the letter and placed it on her mother's pillow, knowing her mother would cry tears of joy. And here's our question. On the surface, it seems pretty simple, right? But let's use our formulas to build a really strong, evidence-backed answer. So how does Maria feel about getting accepted to college? Let's break it down using race. First, we restate. Maria feels overjoyed and selfless about her acceptance. Simple. Then we answer, giving our main claim. She is thrilled for herself, but also wants to share that joy with her family. Next, we cite evidence, both from the text and maybe personal experience. Her heart pounding shows excitement, and leaving the letter is a selfless act. Finally, we explain. Her physical reaction proves her excitement, while her action shows her joy isn't just about her. It's about making her mother happy. See how it all connects? And this, right here, is the biggest takeaway of all. Race and say/mean/matter, they're not just about writing a better paragraph. They are fundamentally about structuring your thoughts. They are frameworks for clear thinking that you can literally apply anytime, anywhere. Because at the end of the day, it all boils down to this one simple truth. Anytime you have an opinion, anytime you make a claim, people just naturally expect you to be able to back it up. These formulas just give you the scaffolding to do it effectively every single time.
So I'm going to leave you with this question. Now that you know the secret formulas, how many arguments that you see every single day are you going to start looking at in a whole new light? And more importantly, how are you going to start building your own?